Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of F1 23 Driver Career Mode here on the channel. Season 4 is officially here and we kick things off with the Australian Grand Prix, a new era for Formula 1, livery changes, engine changes, roster moves. If you missed any of that, plus the custom schedule that we have for this season, you can watch the off-season video, the last episode. We come in third in the R&D, but you see the massive gap between McLaren and Mercedes that we have to try and find a way to, well, obviously make up for throughout the season. Now, it looks massive, but you see in the actual performance chart, it's not as big as it looks. We are just below the 900 mark. McLaren and Mercedes are just below 1,000, so only about 100 point, we'll call it, difference there. So it's really not as big as it looks. So I don't think we're really going to be too far off this weekend. However, as we come into this weekend, we know McLaren and Mercedes are going to be the clear favorites now, and lineup changes for, you know, the top three teams in Formula 1. McLaren brings on Aiden Jackson as Norris leaves, goes to replace retiring Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes, and then, of course, Sergio Perez retires from Red Bull. We come in and replace him after a long wait to go to Red Bull. Of course, we kind of distanced ourselves from Red Bull when we went to Aston Martin, but we've come back, you know, where we started back in the AlphaTauri days. So we roll into practice here in Australia now with this Red Bull Ford machine, and listen to that engine roar. I got a Red Bull Career Mode helmet as well. You can get anything that I use that's modded in this game in the description down below. But overall, I mean, for what this car is, how we're starting the season, I'm pretty happy with where we stack up so far and how the car was feeling in practice. Now, some big things for this season. It's a 23 race calendar once again as well, but like we said, we got a lot of roster changes again. We have a few new rookies, including the first female driver of what, the 2000s for sure, of Callie Mayer. And as we ramped up Free Practice 1, we actually still have that docu-series that we're following along with Sport, which actually touches on bringing Callie Mayer to the team a little bit before we head into qualifying.
How about your daughter? Why don't we give the seat to Callie?
No. California will not be signed to Sport.
Oh, you'd be making history.
Have you felt any pushback from anyone in the F1 world, just with you being the first female driver in the sport?
No, everyone's been amazing, and I'm not the first, I'm just the latest. Should have expected it, right?
I thought you did.
It's not what I mean. I'm a woman, I get it. I'm happy to talk about it.
Then what is it?
Well, it's always the same, isn't it? So you're a woman, and then every question about Dad, about Devon, about the butler, name.
Just forget about it.
And there you get the insight of Callie Mayer joining the team. Of course, David Butler now has two of his own children driving for that Sport team now. As we roll into qualifying, what can Callie Mayer do? What can Devin Butler do? What can we do here in this Red Bull Ford for our first race in this new team? The rain was coming down here in Q1, actually getting a look at Callie Mayer out on track for her first qualifying effort in a Formula 1 car. But yeah, the conditions would significantly get better as Q1 went on, so I decided to wait till pretty late to make my first and opening lap here, and to a point where it was already done raining and the track was drying up pretty quickly. Aiden Jackson, of course, leaving the Sport team, going to McLaren. Zach Brown taking a risk on McLaren, or on Aiden Jackson, and bring him to McLaren. What is going to be able to come out of that? We'll have to wait and see. But for our first lap here in Q1, we're going to cross the stripe. We will get into Q2 really without any issues. P5, but over a second off of Aiden Jackson at the top of the board. Zhou Guanyu back in F1, out with Lawson. Mayer out-qualifies her teammate and brother of Devin Butler in her first attempt. Théo Pourchaire also out in Q1. Unfortunately, Sport still the slowest car on the grid. It's really just about trying to impress the better teams for those two drivers now, as Aiden Jackson was able to do successfully. Here in Q2, pretty happy with the car, and we would be able to cross the stripe here and go P5. So this will bring us through, hopefully, into Q3. I was going for a second lap, but I screwed it up pretty quick right there, and I just couldn't really recover. So P7 is where we ended up, and look at the Ferrari of Sainz out, but both the Alpines of Gasly and Ocon advance. Ayumu Iwasa into Q3. It was a disastrous rookie season when it came to reliability for his car last season. Both of the Aston Martins of Piastri and Tsunoda out, and the two rookies, Drugovich in the BMW and Jake Hughes for Williams out in Q2. But Hughes out-qualifies his teammate of Zhou Guanyu in his first attempt in Formula 1. Now, first lap of Q3, P7, However, not happy with that. Felt like I could improve, so we're going to make a second lap immediately here and see what we can do. We would drop to P9, Verstappen P7. Not very happy really where the whole team is at this current point, but you're going to see through the chicane, I'm going to make a bit of a mistake right here and abuse the track limits and get my time invalidated. So, lap 3, let's see what we can do with the third attempt here now, but you're going to notice that this was going to go wrong right here. So yeah, I invalidated again. Lap 4, what can we do? As this was my third lap on the second run, fourth lap in general now, and here we come through this final sector now. What are we capable of doing now as we come through these final couple of corners? And it's right now McLaren basically just hogging up that front row as we come through out of the final turn. DRS open, we've gained only about 0.2 of a second. Not exactly where I was hoping we were going to be. P9 in qualifying as it's Albon and Jackson, the front row. Norris as well as Russell there, 4th, 3rd. Verstappen 5th, with Leclerc doing really good things in the Ferrari that is way down the R&D to start the season, and the Alpine duo of Gasly and Ocon out-qualify us. We got more race pace in this, so yeah, we're going to head to the grid and see if we can move forward, hopefully as early as turn 1.
Months of rumour and speculation all come to an end today as we return to racing for the opening event of what promises to be an enthralling season. Welcome along then to round 1 of this year's Formula 1 World Championship. So here we are at Albert Park Circuit, 3.28 miles around, with the streets making for a bumpy surface with little undulation. There are 14 corners around the lake, with the best passing opportunities coming at turn 1 and turn 3. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. What a great lap from Alexander Albon yesterday. He'll start from pole position. And Aiden Jackson completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Russell, Norris, Verstappen, Leclerc, Gasly, Ocon, Golden Boy, Iwasa, Sainz, Oscar Piastri, Drugovich, Sonoda, Hughes, Joe, Liam Lawson, Mayer, Teo Pourchaire, and Devon Butler rounds off the grid. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today. A new season then, a clean slate where anything could happen. Natalie Pinkham is with me today as we get another year of Formula 1 underway.
Well, it's clear, very clear conditions, and that makes it clear for the drivers because they don't have to worry and have that added distraction of fickle weather. They can concentrate on the driving and not everything else around them.
All right, then, we're ready to roll here in Australia. Our first race with the new team here in Red Bull. It's a medium to hard compound tire strategy, as usual, as we're going to get ready to kick off Season 4, a new era for Formula 1.
Here we go then, the formation lap gets underway and the excitement here is building as we near ever closer to the start of the race. Which team will come out on top? Who's got their strategies right for today's race? Well, we'll soon find out.
We have pretty split strategy. The McLaren's on softs, but as well 3rd all the way through 10th on mediums.
So as all the cars reform the grid, the drivers will be hoping to get a strong start. They'll want to earn some valuable points from today's race, with final communications being done with their race engineers, ensuring the planned strategies are all in place.
Okay, Gary, let's put together a good first race today. Have fun out there.
Yeah, thank you, Christian. Hopefully we get to the end of the day, and you never know with these new engines, but I'll do my best for you guys.
Good luck, mate.
We're ready to roll. Here in Australia, perfect season opener in my opinion. I always think Australia is the perfect way to open the season and Brazil is the perfect way to end the season. So we replicate that now with the custom schedule. The Connor Sport of Devon Butler rolls up to the back of the grid. Red Bull Ford is set to get underway. How is it going to perform? 5 red lights. We're racing here in Australia now in Albert Park. A bit of a defensive move from the Frenchman of Gasly. Now we swing to the left side. Verstappen's going up to 2nd place. We're going around the outside. Norris with a bit of an awkward entrance allows me to sweep around into 5th place on this opening lap, and out in front it's Alex Albon, over as well George Russell, who's up there in the mix with Verstappen, and then Aiden Jackson followed by myself. In the background you got some side-by-side battles. I expect to see Ferrari on down drop off of the front 3 teams, as we, well, usually see in Formula 1 23 since season 1. You kind of have the 3 teams and then everybody else behind that's trying to play catch up. Sometimes you have a 4th team that gets into the mix. I think we will see a 4th, maybe 5th team even come into the mix this season. Those 2 teams are Ferrari as well as Aston Martin. However, I think they're going to be on a similar trajectory to Red Bull Ford, and that's going to be a bit of a slow start to the season, but for them it's going to take a little bit longer. Now, as you can see, I got dominated down the straight line by Lando Norris, who's going to sweep by into 5th place there. I didn't have anything for him. He takes a position. I settle in behind. As right now, yeah, to start this season, it's definitely more of a McLaren Mercedes kind of fight, and then us in Red Bull kind of right there ready. Maybe select tracks in these opening races will have an opportunity, but we're going to be looking more of the mid-season kind of when we're going to be really fighting, I think, now for race victories. Aiden Jackson with a move on Russell for 2nd place there. McLaren 1-2. Albon trying to drive away early on, and to my surprise, right off the bat, I was pretty pleasantly surprised. As you can see on the track map, the McLarens are already starting to attempt to drive away. Jackson's putting a bit of a gap between himself and Russell, but we're right here with Mercedes. Mercedes is not showing as much pace as I expected. I thought they were going to be right there with the McLaren, but it's a bit different. We're the ones that's right there with Mercedes, and very happy about this. You know, that really gives us confidence of what's to come for the development of this season. As you can see, we're already pulling a gap to Ferrari, 3 seconds ahead on just lap 5. But like I said, I think as the season goes on, because I was able to go into the files and look, so Ferrari and Aston Martin are both at Spec 3, so basically they have all the resources they need to upgrade and move forward here to contend with us. As you can see, Jake Hughes went off in turn 1 on lap 5, a bit of a lockup there for the rookie. He jumps down to the back of the grid lap 6, and it's just almost like a gridlock. The McLarens have driven away, but it's Russell, Verstappen, Norris, and myself, and we can't really get close to one another to really make a move. We're kind of trying to force each other into a mistake. It felt like, you know, both cars were dead even at this point. So it's just a 4-car fight right here. Who can get the opportunity? Who can make a little bit of pressure, you know, get to the guy in front of them? Verstappen can't quite get to 3rd. I can't quite get to 5th. Now battles behind, though. Leclerc and Carlos Sainz going at it. The 2 Ferrari teammates now. Leclerc's on the mediums, Sainz on the softs, and it looks like the softs already starting to fade because look at all that pressure, but Leclerc not quite able to complete the overtake, and Gasly and Ocon, they are right there ready to fight now as they look for a rebound season. I'm right to the back of Norris, but not going for a move into the chicane. It's just a silly overtaking spot here unless you're desperate or you want to make some crazy content. And I didn't want to do anything stupid. So we settle in behind Norris for now on the way down into the braking zone. And a bit of a lockup right there from Norris, and actually contact. Somehow we don't get wing damage, so we'll take it and we go through. We'll take the position there. And thank you very much, Lando. A lockup allows us to move through into 5th position. The McLarens of Albon and Jackson continue to drive away here. Jackson in his sophomore season looking to get his first career win and his first career podium, more importantly here today. Battles behind continue though. Lap 7, Gasly going for a move around the outside of Leclerc. Both of these guys on the mediums, but the Frenchman's going to go around the Monaco base driver, and there he goes into P8. Sainz continues to hold on to that 7th position for the time being. Now, as the Aston Martins are right there in the mix as well, trying to put some pressure on Ferrari, I'm really excited to see what Oscar Piastri is going to be capable of doing with the Aston Martin this season here. Now, lap 9 though, you can see a bit of a gap between myself and my teammate Verstappen as I'm trying to close the gap, and we come to lap 10 and it is closing a bit. 1.4 seconds, 1.3 into turn 1, 1.2 actually, so we got some pace here now, but I was burning through my battery trying to stay ahead of the car behind of Norris. A battle up front, or behind I should say. As you can see, that was Gasly going for a move on Sainz, unsuccessful, and that opened the door for Leclerc to fight back around the outside, and here he goes now with the preferred inside lane, and I think he's got the position. Yes, he does. Leclerc back into 8th place. Some great racing in the midfield part now as we have a whole straightaway on them, about 11 seconds between them and us. Now, DRS on Verstappen. It's time to put the fight to our teammate for the first time, as never mind, the gearbox has failed. And, you know, just like that, our first race with Red Bull Ford has come to an early end on just lap 11 of 29. I can't shift, man. It's destroyed. I don't know what to tell you guys.
Sorry, mate, shut it off. Shut the car off.
You know, if this was with Aston Martin, I'd be pretty annoyed right now, but I'm going to give Red Bull a pass. Because it's a new team, so I'm desperately hoping it works. But as well, new engine regulations, 2026 V8 engines and whatnot, there's going to be issues, although it's a gearbox issue, so what am I talking about? But yeah, that sucks. It is what it is. I'm hopeful this is not a trend or a sign of things to come here now, as I love racing Albert Park, and unfortunately we don't even get halfway through the Grand Prix now. So we'll see who won. It was Alex Albon who picked up the victory for McLaren. Now, we did have another mechanical failure for McLaren. It was Aiden Jackson, so Jackson does not get to celebrate a first podium today. He would also have a DNF there with a failure, and that would put both the Mercedes on the podium of Norris and Russell. Unfortunately, our teammate of Verstappen didn't quite have enough in the end to get himself on the podium for this Ford partnership in its first race. So hopefully Baku will be that opportunity to, you know, get onto the podium for either myself or Max Verstappen. But yeah, a really sad ending there to kick off this season. I would have done 2 races since we DNF'd so early, but since this is season opener, I kind of wanted to make sure we devote 1 episode to that, and only 1 episode instead of mash the 2 first races together. But if we ever have mechanical failures throughout the season that are like before a halfway point in a Grand Prix, I would definitely go and do 2 races in that episode. So there's the celebration on the podium. You see the new fire suits as well for both McLaren as well as the Mercedes drivers. Unfortunately, the Red Bull Ford mod doesn't have a Red Bull Ford fire suit, so we're kind of stuck with just the base Red Bull fire suit from the base game. But there you see the finishing order. So Verstappen ends up 4th, 7 seconds off of a podium, so that makes me feel pretty good. How about Piastri? Up to 5th place in the Aston Martin. That's extremely impressive. Tsunoda gets P10. As you can see, myself and Jackson at the bottom of the grid. The 2 Connor Sport cars, the last one running, but Callie Mayer in her first attempt beats her brother of Devin Butler there. So very cool to see that happen now. Will she or Devin be able to get points here this season? We'll have to wait and see. There you see the standings in the constructors. More importantly, for race 1, 4th behind Ferrari due to the mechanical failure of myself and not being able to pick up points. Mercedes on top as they had both cars finish on the podium. That'll wrap it up for us. Episode 2, Season 4, Baku coming up next. I'll see you guys then. Have a great day, everybody.